So it's definitely been a wild ride as the day has moved on in terms of price. And, that's not surprising. That's crypto, baby. And why I'm making such light note of this is we did, in fact, talk about this earlier today, but apparently it fell on deaf ears. People ignored what I was saying, that we did have potential movements to the downside, especially due to liquidation levels in price. But what I want to specifically talk about is the surprise that hit the crypto market, which it does not like, that did in fact cause some movements to the downside. And we need to address a question that comes from a member of the community. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that bell again. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So I have to say, I find it kind of funny that people were freaking out in the way that they were today, because today we had a crazy variance in price of about 7%. Guys, let's relax. This is a normal day in crypto, a normal day of volatility. Hell, we've had days more volatile than that within the last week. All right. Now, what we're seeing ADA do right now is kind of float between that 72.5 to 73 cent range. And what I actually just got done listening to was Donald Trump sign the executive order and have discussions about automotive tariffs. To give you guys kind of the brief summary, what we are seeing is reciprocal tariffs basically applied broad spread throughout the world. Some key points: he said permanent. He did say lenient, meaning that a lot of these countries that are either dropping tariffs or are moving automotive work here to the US are probably going to see these, in fact, reduce significantly. And that is actually a good thing for the US economy. And why I'm saying this is we are already starting to see manufacturers move this here. First of all, Vietnam dropping tariffs versus the US, or against the US on automotive, the automotive industry. And that's a big deal, right? Because people want free trade. Wow, that's loud. They want free trade here with the US. Secondly, we talked about this actually, I think a couple of weeks ago, Hyundai moving a lot of manufacturing here to the US. Guys, these tariffs are in fact working. They're getting their desired result. And that is to help boost production here in the US, to help create jobs here in the US. Now, what I find kind of funny about this is, crypto doesn't revolve around the US, but for whatever reason, the charts like to act like it does. There is a world out there, and the US is frankly I think fourth or fifth largest country in the world when it comes to crypto. Yes, it's a crypto hub. It's trying to become a more dominant player in the crypto space, and I think it will over time. But the fact that there is this much impact from something like this, just Donald Trump speaking about automotive tariffs later in the day, screams manipulation. And that's why I made a tweet earlier today. Don't fall for the shakeout again, right? These things should not be surprising at this point. And in fact, despite today being red, I would not be surprised by more and more and more green as the week goes on. Now, this isn't a guarantee or financial advice or anything like that, but we have to think about the good things that are still present. We are still seeing massive entities take advantage of these dips, buy and accumulate. It is a very consistent theme. And I've seen a lot of people posting that they're doing the very same thing as the day goes on. Now, just to kind of show you guys, this is what we were talking about earlier today, right? We talked about all this long interest down here. It didn't go away as the day went on. And of course, when price fell, we started getting into some long liquidations and we hit those prices. Guys, same things in terms of BTC. We talked about that tight zone in terms of liquidation levels. And we worked into the longs, right? We liquidated a bunch of longs on the way down. So I said verbatim, ADA will probably be drug around with the crypto market. And here we are today. It's 4:49 p.m. Central Standard Time, and ADA was in fact drug around with the crypto market. Now, there was actually a very good question that was posed by a community member, and I do want to have a discussion about this. He said, honest question, what makes you think ADA will run so well this year if QT continues with no sign of QE in sight? Do you not think that the conditions are almost the opposite of 2021, where we had massive QE and stimulus, very low rates, coupled with a huge stock rally? I do love ADA and everything about Cardano, but I'm struggling to see a catalyst for any kind of decent rally at this point. Maybe we'll get some good news on April 2nd, but don't you think it's possible we get no alt season until QE begins and rates drop significantly, which might not happen for a year or two? And this is a great question, right? This is a concern that a lot of people have. And I think that there's more of a coincidental shift that took place last market cycle that led to this move in the crypto market, right? When we take a look at what happened in March of 2020, that is when we officially saw the shift from basically non-QT to QE, quantitative easing, in 2020. And yes, of course, when we look across the crypto market, We saw a big rally that took place. This was coming right out of the COVID crash, lots of uncertainty. And then, yes, we did get low rates. We got economic boom. But at the same time, we also had massive inflation. We have massive printing. But the thing that people forget is that it wasn't just here in the US that was taking place. It was around the world. And global liquidity is the biggest thing we should, in fact, be monitoring. And what we have been seeing for global liquidity is a chart that is on the rise. Global printing has, in fact, been accelerating. It's been taking off. So yes, there is more capital that is starting to matriculate around the world, but it takes time for the charts to catch up, right? What we have also seen too from the data is that people's savings are in fact on the rise. So this is a very good sign because inflation has been slowing. Some things have been starting to rise. Wage increases slowly but surely creeping up. And we're kind of starting to see more of a balance where instead inflation was running out of control and everything else was lagging behind. We're finally reaching this point where everything else is starting to catch up, but it's a slow process. And what you deal with during that time is a little bit of slowdown. And at that same time, you see inflation starting to flatten out, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. So things by all stances, I would say that things are actually improving, but it's kind of a lagging metric, right? It takes months to catch up. And now that we're seeing global liquidity on the rise, that's a good sign as well. But what will happen over time is we have now seen the US start to shift. We have seen them actually begin to shift away from quantitative tightening per the Fed at their last FOMC meeting. They've actually reduced quantitative tightening by 80%. And what we are now seeing is we're very quickly accelerating towards interest rate decreases. We're very quickly accelerating towards quantitative easing, which is more likely than not later in 2025. All right. Now, this isn't to guarantee your financial advice or anything like that, because the Fed still has a goal here. It's to basically teeter us on the brink of a recession without tipping us into a recession. And what that means is that if things get bad enough, yes, they will in fact cut rates. Yes, they will shift towards quantitative easing. All right. As they have said many times, they're not in a hurry to cut rates, right? But that doesn't mean that they're not reactionary. We have seen them be reactionary before. If you guys remember, late in 2024, as they cut rate 3 times, even as data was, we'll say fine, they understood where we were at and that we needed to see those interest rate decreases to keep the economy rolling along. So that's kind of my big, long, drawn out explanation for that. But what I will say here as well is this is where we could actually see a shift towards more of this blow off top and more of a super cycle than anything. Why I'm saying that is, again, if it takes several months for the Bitcoin charts and the crypto charts to begin to catch up what is taking place in terms of global liquidity, which is the case, huge correlation between this that I've talked about in other videos. But what then happens if the US starts to shift towards quantitative easing, they start cutting rates, people start spending more and start to put more assets or more capital in speculative assets, as we're watching, for example, the US dollar index on the drop, as we're watching 10-year bond yields on the drop. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit of a dead cat bounce from the latter part of February into the early part of March here. But as those continue to move that direction, what you see is people start to shift towards, again, more speculative assets. So instead of a cycle that frankly may have originally ended around October, we may start to see something that runs more aggressively into the Q1 of 2026. And then you talk about the potential of a super cycle and continued adoption and mass adoption hitting in a big way, 400 million plus new people entering the crypto market. It becomes this big snowball conversation. And I didn't want this video to get that long, but it's a very interesting process as to how this all might play out. The big step, first of all, is just, again, having enough confidence where the money that's here currently starts to move the market. And like I talked about in my earlier ADA video today, we're seeing ADA at a higher point of relevance than it's ever been. So the fact that, ADA, frankly, we could see USDT dominance drop down to these same levels it was, around, let's say, first week of February or so. And ADA at that time was only, only up around, 95 cents. In the same breath, that level of relevance puts ADA basically to breakout prices up here, right? Now, this isn't to guarantee your financial advice, but that's just how things are currently shaking out in the crypto space. And hopefully this is provided enough clarity for that. And this is just, my interpretation of what's going on. I might be right, wrong, or otherwise, right? Who knows where things are going to be headed. There's lots of twists and turns and surprises that we deal with in the crypto market. But I would say that, there are going to be assets that are winners and there are going to be assets that are losers. And ADA has done enough, Cardano has done enough to separate itself from the pack and make itself a big winner for this market cycle. It's why it's been kind of ahead of the curve in these last pumps. It's why it's been one of the better performers in these last pumps. And that only tends to get accelerated and magnified when adoption starts taking place, when the capital flows a lot more freely. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully that answered the question clearly for you, but we'll obviously see how the overnight market shakes up. Overseas money is going to be the real surprise right now. Again, it's about 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. This will come out at about 7, but let me know your thoughts. How do you think things are going to shake out? Do you think that this was just a shakeout attempt? Do we think that the market is going to pump as we get into the latter part of the week? But have a great day. Show your love below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.